Hello and welcome once again to I Didn't Sign Up for This.
Hey, Tim.
Hey, Carrie. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
So what are we talking about this week?
So, Tim, I really want to talk about who we are, the masks that we wear, and why it's important to be ourselves. Kind of a deep topic this week, right? But I've been thinking about it for a couple of days. When we were out today, and I was in Marshall's buying needless things, there was a girl that walked past me. She was an employee, and she had her mask on, and we made eye contact. And I find myself in this environment where we're wearing literal masks, searching for a connection, because I enjoy connections with people. It's something that it's an energy thing. It's a boost. It's a lift. I feel connected. I feel their spirit. They feel my spirit. It just feels good. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things for me through this whole pandemic, is not being able to see the person smile or the light in their eyes or both, and the expression. And anyway, so I'm standing there, and this girl walks by, and we make eye contact, and I greeted her. I said, "Hey, how are you?" She was like, "I'm doing really good. How are you?" Like, we were old friends, right? So we found that connection. And I said, "I'm great. Thanks so much for asking." And it was so uplifting because I saw past her mask, and I saw the person that she really was. And for just a minute, just a quick little glimpse. And I think that that's a really good way to open our podcast tonight, because how often are we behind the proverbial mask and we don't let our light shine?
Right.
Because we're so busy playing a role or so busy trying to be something that we think others need us to be, that we're not just letting our light shine. We're not ourselves. We're not the passionate people that we were born to be. And it's been weighing on my mind a lot because I think it's important.
Okay. So do you think that people wearing the masks, the literal masks, why are we wearing those again?
Well, because it's going to cure COVID. Okay.
There you go. But
it's a safety net, right? So obviously, you know more of the factual information behind this, but the masks are almost like a pacifier, right? And I don't want to get too far down that path because I know that, everybody has an opinion about COVID. Everybody has an opinion about masks. We all hate them. Some of us wear them. Some of us choose not to wear them.
Right.
But it actually is just a mechanism to provide a false sense of security on some level.
I kind of get that, because you have this thing that it seems so incredibly overwhelming to so many people. And you ask yourself, anytime you see someone in pain or suffering or there's a problem, how can I help you? What can I do? What can I possibly do? And I think the mask is essentially devolved into a symbol of, here's something that I can do. It does precious little good according to the Centers for Disease Control. It just really doesn't do anything according to the most recent data that's come out of the CDC. But we continue to do it, and we continue to request and require it. And I think it boils back down to being, like you said, a pacifier. It's a way to say, look, I don't know what to do, but I'm doing something. And I want to present to the world that I'm a team player, that I'm on board.
Sure. That
I want it. So it's essentially a signal to others that, hey, whether it helps or not, this is me saying I care about you.
I agree. I think it's interesting because, you know that I've spent a lot of time over the last year out in the middle of the desert, right? Yep. Like, I work virtually. I had virtual happy hours. I would have virtual movies. I would do all of these things virtually. And so literally I have been secluded in the desert, but I know that I have not been exposed to COVID, but right. Every week when I would go pick up my groceries, I would go do grocery pickup. The first thing I did when I pulled into the stall before those kids came out with my groceries, I grabbed a mask and I put it on. I knew that I was fine, and I was not worried about myself, nor was I worried about getting sick from them. It was to show them that I was safe. I am going to wear this mask to respect you because you are bringing me my groceries.
Right. I'm one of you. I'm on the team. Team defeat COVID versus team I don't care about you.
Yeah, I mean, there have been fights.
Oh,
there have been fights.
I've seen the videos. I saw a guy somewhere in Washington, around Seattle, and this guy's trying to go into a grocery store. I won't name the name. And he is trying to go into the grocery store devoid of a mask, and a guy meets him at the door with a baseball bat. Oh. And I laugh. I laugh because I don't know what else to do. It's sad. It's crazy. The opinions around the subject matter are so incredibly strong. And it's ironic that the solution became, hey, let's wear a mask. Because it literally is something that shows the world a face that we want them to see.
That's exactly what we're talking about. Because, okay, so let's step away from the literal mask, right? So it's the concept, but the proverbial mask is the exact same thing.
Right.
I don't want you to see me on my worst day, right? And so I'm going to put on this mask and I'm going to project that to you so that you don't see when I'm grumpy or impatient or irritable. And that's all part of the human emotion. I mean, we have a rainbow of emotions that we feel on any given day at any given time. But so I was the kid in church, right? When we were growing up, you couldn't look at me. If you looked at me in church, you could forget it. I would be laughing uncontrollably, tears running down my face. It didn't matter how old I was. And I will never forget where we were sitting in these pews at church and people would be up talking, or they would be up, somebody would be singing or going to pray. Praying was the worst. Like, heaven forbid you get the giggles during the big prayer at the end of sacrament meeting. But Mom was always, I remember, to this day, this woman has 6 children, and to this day, all she has to do anywhere she is snap her fingers. And if one of us are around, we're... because we know what's coming next. We know what's coming next. And so she's, don't you dare do that. Don't you, I'm going to take you outside. And, and put you in the hot car. No, just playing.
I'm going to lock you in that car.
I'm going to lock you in that trunk.
The Walmart parking lot. And
in
you're
August.
Gonna sweat it out. Yeah, you have a decidedly more brutal childhood than I recall. I don't know. Mom loved me. I was.
You were the favorite. I mean,
I was a favorite. I was just more like the golden child.
Well, the rest of us struggled. No, but if you think about it, we're all doing that on some level, right? Like, we're looking in the mirror. Don't you do that? Don't you show them your weakness? Don't you show them your insecurity? You have got to project your best day. Quit giggling in church and pay attention. And I think that we do that when the wonderful, passionate, amazing things about people are our differences and the way that we show up in a unique way. And when we wear a mask, we put ourselves behind this barrier that keeps us from being who we are and truly connecting with other people.
And why? Why do we do that? Where we separate ourselves from other people to impress them, to impress ourselves, to self-aggrandize. Like, why do we do that?
I'll tell you, one of the biggest reasons for me is vulnerability. I have this fear because I am driven in my life and what I want to accomplish, with that. And I know that I'm not an anomaly here. I know that a lot of people do this, but I'm very hard on myself. And so what I might perceive as a weakness could also be, by showing that weakness, I am opening myself up to being vulnerable. I'm showing you my imperfections. I'm showing you the pieces of me that aren't camera ready. Right.
And why does that scare you so much? Or anyone so much?
I think it comes down to acceptance. If if you see the not so shiny parts of me, are you going to accept me for who I am? Now, keep in mind that there are different relationships in our life. Like my best friend since 8th grade, this girl has seen me at my worst. She's seen me at my best, and she knows me. And she knows that when I need to process something or I need to talk through something, then I can give her a call, and vice versa. And we're there for each other. We've seen the ugly cry.
Right. Which is not to say that I don't do the same thing myself. I think I ask you the question as to why you're constantly putting your best foot forward, because I feel so compelled to do it as well. And when I back up and think about it in very objective terms, I find it to be just absolutely absurd, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm trying to prove something to that kid in 7th grade. I'm not going to say his name, but I know it. Okay. As funny as that is, I'm quite serious. I could say this kid's name. And he was he was such a jerk to me. He was so mean. And yet I look back upon those days now with the goggles of maturity and realize that it was overwhelmingly likely that he was incredibly insecure, possibly even attracted to me. And we won't get into that. That's for another podcast, even though it is Pride Month.
It is Pride Month. I mean, yeah.
I don't know. But I do remember it. It left such an incredible, indelible mark on my psyche that I felt the need to construct these walls, these castle walls, to protect myself from any form of vulnerability. Until you realize that it's only through vulnerability that anyone ever gets into your castle.
Yeah.
That sounds weird. I don't know.
You have to lower the bridge across the moat.
Okay, now you made it. Mine sounded weird. Yours is naughty. What?
Sometimes you just have to drop that bridge. No, but I think you're onto something, and I'll tell you. It's interesting because I just finished up a new media technologies class, right? And part of what I had to write last week was a paper about children and how they engage in the internet and the social media impacts on our children. And I don't want to get too into the statistics because I know we kind of play around in the philosophy of things, but more and more children are suffering from anxiety and depression because there is an innate need to measure up to the average of their peers. And because their measurement is social media and they're literally getting everybody's highlight reel, then they think that because their life is real and it's, it's pretty and it's ugly and it's scary and it's frustrating and it's all these things. But yet when I look at Cindy Lou's Facebook, she's at her cheerleading thing.
We could tell you stories about Cindy Lou, but we're not going to.
Nope, not a bit.
Because this is not that kind of show. Cindy, you know who you are.
You hear us, Cindy Lou. They're looking at their peers' Facebook, and they're only seeing the good things. Like, I don't put a picture of myself when I'm tired and having a bad day or irritable or, or crying. Like,
The face of constipation.
No. I don't. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm getting to?
Absolutely. I think it's a natural thing. We live in this age of social media, where we do interact with others by virtue of essentially canned media. And so you don't really have the chance to fumble and bumble. So you put an image of yourself out there that you feel will be acceptable to others, palatable, even desirable, and everything else gets edited out. Everything else gets deleted. And because of that, it's unreal. And then that becomes the mask that you wear. And then you feel pressured to live up to it, right? I mean, sadly enough, I noticed this just earlier today because I found myself on a video conference call with someone. And I usually do that in my studio, right? Mm-hmm. I sit there and I've got sound panels and I've got perfect, beautiful light. And I just, look glorious.
Right.
And because I'm out here, I had to do that holding my phone in front of my face. And as it turns out, I don't look that good with the phone held up in front of my face. I'm like looking at myself on this call going, where'd that other chin come from? What, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but the problem is that if you were to click on the little icon that selects me out of the drop down, here's just this dashing man. And then when you look at the actual video I'm sending, it's like, oh my gosh, who is that dude? Right? The fact of the matter is, though, that nobody's really doing that. Nobody's really doing that. They're not really thinking that. We're doing that to ourselves. We're setting the bar super high by showing the world our highlight reel and feeling like we have to live up to our highlight reel. And so then when we see our reality reel, we feel bad about ourselves.
Agreed. And how do we stop that, right? I keep thinking about the commercial. Have you seen the commercial? I think it's for a medication for depression, right? And you've got these people walking around and they have this little stick with like a paper plate on it, and it has this smiley face, right? And they literally are walking around with the smiley face, and they put it in front of their face to mask who they really are or what they're going through, and the fact that it's a very real thing. And at the end of the day, the human experience is a montage of ups and downs and wonderful, amazing moments that just make us feel joy, and then those really hard moments that make us grow.
Right.
And it's all of it together as something beautiful.
Right.
But yet we're putting 50% of it behind a mask.
At least, I'd say.
Oh, yeah, at least
50%.
50. Because we're so worried. We're so worried that if you see my ugly cry, then that's going to become your perception of me.
Right. And the thing is, it's a part of that montage. And so why can't it be the perception of you? And again, I'm not saying this like I'm coming in, some wise old sage,
Well,
accept yourself, my little
love
one.
you.
It doesn't, I'm not saying that. I'm literally asking these questions of myself. I pose these questions to you, and I pose these questions for, anyone who's listening in, who's brave enough to listen in. But I'm asking the question of myself, why do I do that? Why do I go to so much trouble to put everybody on hold so I can walk over to a north-facing window and hold the phone 3 feet above my head and look up at it, right?
Oh, I get it. I don't go on camera unless my eyebrows are done.
Right.
I've told everybody at work, if I'm not on camera, it's because I don't have my eyebrows done.
Right.
Okay, nobody's paying attention to my eyebrows. Nobody really cares.
Nobody cares.
But when you look at me, or I look at you, I see the whole you. I don't see an eyebrow out of place or I don't, when you look at me, you don't see anything short of just absolute beauty, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. It's hard. But the truth is we are the sum of our parts, not just, but we pick apart different pieces of ourselves and we focus on those things. But so we all have those things that we let stand in our way. And so ultimately, when we're wearing these masks and we are trying to project this complete picture of perfection, I will tell you, it's interesting being in the dating world and reading different profiles and everything, that I'm really just trying to push myself out of my comfort zone and be, more vulnerable. I literally came across one the other day where the guy said, if you use Snapchat filters, if you have any kind of filter on your profile, I'm probably not the guy for you. I was like, that's absurd. No, it's not.
Yeah. It makes a really good point. I actually did some work with somebody a while back who, this is probably 3 or 4 years ago when Snapchat had just come out. Mm-hmm. And they had invented all of these really cool, groovy filters. And she thought that she looked so good on the Snapchat filter that she decided to record her little video message that was going out to this entire company with a Snapchat filter. And she failed to realize that even though it made her eyes big like a Disney princess and her skin silky smooth and, had the essence of perhaps a woodland creature, it also had the voice changer. And so,
hello.
That was it.
I know that filter. Oh my gosh. Hello. Today's broadcast is brought to you by.
I mean, she goes from like, I'm a C-level executive in this company to I represent the Lollipop Guild.
Oh no. Oh, what have we done?
Anyway, I mean, luckily, nobody knew this happened, right? I would love to tell a story where this just like went out company wide. That would make it such a better story. But like, I just happened to be there. In person. And I'm just like, look, number one, you can't do that because that's inauthentic and that's not the real you and that's not who these people follow anyway, right? Just trust yourself.
Right.
Right? So, yep, you've got a little bag under your eye. Yep, you're a 55-year-old woman. You are. Welcome to Earth. That's how things happen. But you are the person that people see you as a mother figure in this company and they follow you and they would take a bullet for you. And then all of a sudden, we represent. I can't even do it. You did it.
Hello.
That's it.
Hello. Welcome to our broadcast today.
That's what it's
like. Yeah, I know.
Anyway, it was so funny. And so like we stopped it. It was like, we can't use this video.
Oh.
I'm like, you look really interesting to say the least, but we can't use this video.
Oh, it's just we're so afraid to be imperfect.
Right. We're so afraid to be imperfect. I mean, think about what an absurd statement that is.
Right.
I'm terrified of imperfection. Could you think of maybe a higher bar? Like, come on, give it the old college try. You can do better than perfection, can't you? It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. Right?
Well, let's talk about what that does to us, right? Like, I think we pretty much define, like, the underlying cause as potential insecurity, vulnerability. Yeah, I don't look as young as I did in my 20s because now I'm in my 40s. But you think about all of the experience that we acquire, the life experience and the evolution of who we are. We should be proud of who we are.
Right.
Right? Okay, so we know that. But let's talk a little bit about what this does to us. How does it damage our relationships?
Okay.
So if I am constantly projecting an inauthentic version of myself and I don't show you who I am, or vice versa, what does that do?
Well, you're false advertising at very least. You're selling something
Sure.
that you cannot deliver. You're writing checks that you can't cash. And I think ultimately you tend to drive people away from you. You're going to drive people out of your life. You're going to miss an incredible amount of otherwise incredibly fulfilling opportunities. Well, it's the old notion of finding an audience versus playing to an audience.
Okay.
Right? There are plenty of performers, be it singers, dancers, comedians, actors, whatever, who have incredible following because they have chosen to find an audience. Look at John Wayne. John Wayne played the same character in every film he ever starred in, that he ever played in. That character's name, while it was something else on the script, when you saw it on film, it was John Wayne. John Wayne goes to the West. John Wayne goes to war, right?
Yeah.
He found an audience. He did not play to an audience. Now, people would argue it was because he wasn't really a great actor or whatever. But you can apply the same thing to the great actors, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, people go to see a Will Ferrell movie because they want to laugh, or they go to see a Dwayne Johnson movie because they want action, adventure, and, glistening, bold muscularity. Wow, Pride Month. That sounded terrible.
I'm going to go watch one of those movies right now.
But seriously, though, people go to see a particular film based on an individual who's found an audience. And as we move forward, that seems to be evaporating. And I think it's largely because of the influence of the social media world that we live in and the masks that we have convinced ourselves we absolutely have to wear.
It makes sense. I agree with you. I think that ultimately when we're wearing these masks and we're trying to appeal to an audience that really isn't our audience, there is no connection there. Right. And we all are just attracted to what we're attracted to. We gravitate to personality types. We gravitate to different attributes in people that, I love spending time with people that make me laugh. I love spending time with people that have the same sense of humor as me. And not like a romantic situation, but any situation. Like when you connect with somebody and you're laughing and you have the same sense of humor and you're building on that and it's fun and it's, you're building all of those on common ground. Right? So you're building on common ground. So if you aren't authentic and you're projecting this highlight reel, there is no common ground because nobody can live up to your highlight reel. That's can't even live up to your highlight reel.
And you hate yourself because you can't.
Yeah. And so you're disconnected from your soul. You're not being true to yourself. And then how could you possibly connect with other people if you can't connect with who you are?
Right. And so what do you do? What are the solutions to this?
I will tell you, I think about, when you ask me that, I think about the movie Runaway Bride. Right? Okay, so how did she like her eggs? Everybody that she dated ate their eggs a certain way. And Richard Gere finds out that when she was with this guy, she liked him over easy. When she was with this guy, she liked eggs Benedict. When she was with this guy, she liked them scrambled. You have to take a step back and figure out how you like your eggs. Because if you don't know how you like your eggs, you're never going to get what you want.
That's right. You're always going to be pandering.
Right. And you're catering to the perception of others.
Right.
Okay. So you identify who you are. Identify how you like your eggs. You also, here's a big thing. You also have to love yourself for your imperfections. You have to truly accept and love yourself for who you are. And if you can't do that, you can't possibly love or accept anybody else. It all starts inside of you. And so the best way to do that is to identify. You can identify who you are and what you want out of life, and what is your life's desire? What truly do you want out of life? What makes you happy? Right? I'll tell you, and I've probably mentioned this before, but there was a time in my life where I worked so much that I forgot what I enjoyed. I forgot what I loved about my life. I forgot what was fun. And that was never like me. Growing up, I was always having fun. I was always laughing. I was always doing all this stuff and to enjoy my life. And I just got laser focused on my career. And it was all I could think about was, I'm an achiever. And so I just wanted to keep achieving and keep progressing and moving forward and getting promoted and doing. And I felt like nobody could do it the way that I could do it. And so I needed to show up and do it every day. Get out of my way while I do this. And I had this moment where I couldn't remember what fun was. Fun is not work. I couldn't remember what fun was. And so I remembered that through the course of a discussion or a conversation I had with somebody, it was that aha moment. And I went home and I made a list of all the things that I love to do. And camping is a huge thing. I love to go camping. But do you know what I go camping for? I go camping for that time between about 6:30 a.m. and 7:45 a.m. when everybody in the campsite is still asleep. Right. And I'm sitting outside the camper or the tent in a chair, and I've got my warm beverage, whatever it is, cocoa, tea, coffee, whatever. Just imagine whatever it is you like to drink. And I'm sitting there with my warm beverage, and it's quiet and it's peaceful. There are birds, and the wind is blowing through the trees, and I'm just at peace, and the whole world just stops. That 45 minutes is why I go camping.
And that 45 minutes is you unmasked.
Absolutely unmasked. But I will tell you that that's where I started. And I realized that if I can be myself in that 45 minutes, I can be myself anywhere.
Yeah.
I had someone ask me not too long ago if I'd be interested in progressing in my career. And the truth is I have worked for 2 women in my career who were absolutely authentic women. They were the people that they, in the boardroom, that they are on a Friday night with their family. The sense of humor, the honesty, the dedication, the concern, the care, everything. And those are the examples that I use to benchmark off of whether or not I want to continue to pursue, different levels in my career. Because if you can be authentic, then I also can keep that authenticity and be successful.
I agree you can, but there are 2 points there. Number one, if you can play basketball professionally, you're in the NBA, you're Shaquille O'Neal, you have a notoriously bad free throw shooting form. Mm-hmm. It's just horrendous. But you do, in fact, hit the free throw 20% of the time, 2 out of 10, you're actually dropping one through. But according to that example, if you can put it through the hole one time, then you can put it through the hole every time. You'd have 100% shooting percentage from the free throw line. And so what stops people from finding that authentic self under certain circumstances, but they are either unwilling or unable to identify and be in the close company of that authentic self under other circumstances?
So you're asking what the difference is in the circumstance?
No, what I'm asking is, if you can do anything one time, you can do that same thing every time. Anything that's possible to do can be repeated, right? So if I can identify with my authentic, unmasked self, even if it's just 45 minutes in the wee hours of the morning in the mountain.
Got it.
Right? Mm-hmm. Why can't I just be my authentic self moving forward? Just make a decision and stay in that place of authenticity for the rest of my life.
I think it's possible, but I also think that in order to do that, you have to remove your desire to live up to the expectation and perception of others.
Okay, but remember, the expectation and perception of others is something that you apply to them and then back to you.
Oh, that's fair. You literally project it onto them.
Yeah, you're throwing a rubber ball off of somebody and it bounced back and hits you, and you're going, "Why'd you throw that ball at me?" It's like, no, that's not what happened, sunshine. You threw the ball, it bounced off my chest and hit you, right? I had no expectations of you. I don't care. Are you a great boss, a great leader, a great mom, a great... fill in the blank.
Right.
Yeah, if you will say so, sounds good, but I don't care.
Well, and I think that I think we all need to get to that point. I think you need to remove the barriers to be able to be authentically yourself all the time. Because there is no disconnect with your soul when you are true to yourself.
Right.
Right? And so in order to do that, you do actually have to remove those projections that you apply that you feel like are coming from other people, but they're actually coming internally from you.
Yeah, you're creating that.
Mm-hmm. So you have to remove that.
Because I think it comes back to you've adopted some bad paradigms. If I hire a new employee and that new employee doesn't do the job, I don't care how kind or wonderful that person is. If they don't do the job, I let them go. Right. But for whatever reason, in part of the human condition, we get so invested in our paradigm. We define who we are to ourselves, and then we project the expectation of who we need to be onto everyone else. And so even though it's coming from us, we feel like it's coming from every other facet of our lives, which is just not the truth. We're creating it. You could wake up tomorrow and say, "Hey, this whole corporate career thing has been a lot of fun, but I'm going to sell this big house in the desert. I'm going to go live in a van down by the beach and write the great American novel. And so hit me up. I'll be in Cabo if you need me, right? I think there's self-service down there where I am, but I'm going to be just like on a desert by the ocean in Baja del Sur. That's terrible.
I love it.
Anyway, nonetheless, you could do that if you're willing to pay the price. There's a price that you'd have to pay for that.
Right.
There's no guarantee you'd ever get your big house in the desert back. There's no guarantee that your great American novel would sell copy one.
Right.
There are no guarantees. And so you do take a risk. You kind of roll the dice. But it boils down to your paradigm. If you believe that cannot be done and that you cannot do that, you will never take the action to begin that journey. You will never do it if you believe it can't be done. Conversely, if you believe it can't be done sitting right here in the house in the desert,
it never will.
It never will.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason to say that you have to sell everything, other than the fact that, your life is pretty demanding. I've noticed that being out here this week. There's like a lot of phone calls and, a lot of support going out. I see that. I see that. And so it's pretty demanding. And so it would be really hard to just, push away from that and write for 8 or 10 hours a day. But I think ultimately it comes down to what you believe is possible. And that's what limits you. That's also what creates the expectations that you project onto others, and they reflect back to you. And so you immediately throw on the mask that person expects, parenthetically, or open quote, expects, close quote, because they don't really expect. They're following your lead. I remember working with a kid years and years ago now. Great guy, just thoroughly impressive individual. Just loved him like a brother. But I was having a conversation with this kid some years back, and I was trying to get him to let go of some of his limiting beliefs. He was a sales guy. He was a professional salesman trying to make it in that world, which can be a very challenging world. And I asked him, so tell me something. If you could have any, say, car that you wanted, right? It can be a family car, a sports car, a SUV, a Humvee. I don't care. Any car you want. And you could just pick one and have it. What would it be? What would it be? And so he stopped and he thought for a minute, put his hand on his chin, and he says, man, I'd have me a brand new, I can't even say it.
No.
Oldsmobile Alero. Yep.
I'm like thinking like Lamborghini.
Exactly. I was like, dude, I said any car. I said any car in the world. And you like cars, you like to drive. Any car in the world. And you would pick an Oldsmobile Alero. Right? And so we start digging into that and trying to unpacking that a little bit. Why an Oldsmobile Alero? And what it boiled down to was that his wife's uncle, I want to say, owned an Oldsmobile dealership, and he was sure he could get one at cost and be able to make the payment.
Oh my gosh.
Now talk about a limiting belief,
something.
Right?
Yeah.
Your dream come true is based on that limiting a belief. I mean, that's sad. That's challenging. But that was the paradigm that he was living under. That was the paradigm he was living under.
That's interesting.
He got out of that paradigm. I mean, it's a happy ending, right? He broke through that cycle in a big way and went on to, some great things, which I probably don't have permission to talk about, so I'm not going to. But, I mean, great things.
Yeah.
Like, certainly from a financial perspective, he did incredibly well in the ensuing years. But, yeah, that's the thing. We don't believe we can have something, be something, do something, and we don't believe it unless we are this archetype. We are the hero, as it were. And we don't even realize that we are the ones who are demanding so much of ourselves and projecting onto others. They reflect it back to us because we told them what to reflect.
Oh, absolutely.
And then we feel burdened by the overwhelming expectations of these completely unreasonable people. You're the unreasonable people, Junior.
Right.
It's
yeah.
you.
Well, and that's true because I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with people that I've coached or people, even just in friendship conversations. We teach people how to treat us.
Right.
Right. And even if you look at, like, let's just take a failed relationship, okay? So you've got two people that show up in a relationship, and it's all exciting and it's fun, and they go through all this really cool stuff, and then they slowly start to teach each other how to treat each other, and they get into these roles in their relationship. And so I'm going to play a certain role in this relationship because I show up and I play my part, and you do the same, okay? Well, and then it breaks. It doesn't work. Right. And so you break up and you go your separate ways. Well, I have a big announcement for everybody. If I was to go back to any of my exes and I was to get back together with them, believe it or not, I would revert back to the role that I played with them, because that is always your part. That's why exes are exes for a reason, right? You show up, you play your part. It doesn't work because you broke it. It just doesn't fit. You're always going to revert back to that. I've done that once.
Right.
Broken up with somebody, got back together with them. Guess what? I reverted back to that role, and I was that same unhappy person, that unfulfilled person, that you're getting everything that you want out of this, and I'm literally getting nothing.
Right.
Right? And so we do that, but now let's expand out past like a romantic or dating situation. I teach my mom how to treat me. She teaches me how to treat her.
That's correct.
Everybody that I interact with, I teach how to treat me. And so you have to change that within yourself. If you feel that you deserve more, then you actually have to show up and demand it.
That's right.
When I wrote my book, I got up at 5:30 every morning. I am not a morning person. I would rather stay up until 5:30 than get up at 5:30 in the morning. But it was important to me, and nobody told me that I could not do it.
Right.
So I would get up and I would write at 5:30 in the morning, because for me, I found that was when I was the clearest. That was when my energy was clean. I didn't have any of the residual demands of the day on me. I could think clearly, and I could verbalize, and I could imagine the things that I wanted to put into this book. 5:30 every morning. I got up at 5:30 every morning of my life until it was completed.
Right.
And so nobody told me I couldn't do that. Nobody told me I couldn't write another one. Right? So I'm writing another one.
Right.
And that's just how it works. But how often do we tell ourselves, "Oh, I can't do that. I can't go out with that person because I don't deserve that."
Right.
Or I can't get that job because I don't deserve it. Somebody else deserves it. I mean, look how great Sandy is. She's amazing. Like, her Facebook is awesome. She's always at parties and people love her.
Sandy. Sandy, yeah. You know who you are.
But that's the truth, though. Like, how often do you tell the end of your story before you ever even get to the beginning?
It's a very good point. I wonder if Sandy and Cindy Lou are related, because they're so much alike.
They're sisters. I didn't want to say anything. But they're sisters.
I'm afraid somebody's going to reverse engineer exactly who these people are. Trust me, you won't be able to.
But it's interesting to me. I think that the joy that you can have in life is the self-acceptance and loving yourself for who you are, and showing up to the party in your own skin.
Right.
You know?
Right. And so the solution is to roll the dice, take a risk, begin taking the mask off, and just go out there barefaced and see what the world thinks of you for real. Not some expectation that you've projected onto others, that they've reflected back at you, but rather, hey, this is who and how I am. What do you think?
Yeah. I would venture to say that people will absolutely love you for who you are.
Because you absolutely love others for who they are. Mm-hmm. We love authentic people.
Right.
We love authentic people.
I will tell you that I understand that men struggle with this too. But one of the things that I find great joy in is seeing a lot of the women that I have coached in my past, that when they have that aha moment, that they realize that they have been the ones standing in their own way.
Right.
And it's easier, believe it or not, it is easier to move yourself out of the way. When you love who you are, you can get out of your own way when you love who you are.
Right.
And it's an amazing feeling to look in the mirror. And yeah, you might see a double chin or wrinkles or anything, but to really look in the mirror and see who you are and the person that you've become through every hardship, every trial, every opportunity for growth, and to see that person staring back at you and realize that you've overcome so much. There's an amazing feeling of accomplishment when you do that.
Right.
And you can't feel that if you are covered in a mask because you're so afraid to see what's under it.
That's right. That's right. And realize that much like the masks that many of us find ourselves wearing even today, it's not real. You are putting that on for other purposes. You're putting that on to make other people comfortable. You wear that mask, literally or otherwise, to make other people comfortable. And they will love you for exactly who you are. They're already not uncomfortable. They're fine, you know? It reminds me of oh gosh, how long ago was it? All right, so a couple of years ago, Mom and I go on a trip, and Mom's a big fan of Sam's Club, as you well know.
Oh, I know. I know she is.
And so Mom and I go on a trip. We go all the way back to the East Coast, back to visit my brother and his wife. And we literally planned that whole trip stopping at Sam's Clubs on the way. It was like, shortest route? Why, no thank you, Siri.
Nearest Sam's Club.
Did you want toll-free roads? Why, very kind of you to offer, Siri, but no. Actually, what we want is to bounce across this nation from Sam's Club to Sam's Club. It worked out well. It was incredible. We stopped so many times and got like rotisserie chicken and like these fresh tomatoes. And oh my gosh, it was fantastic. It was better than we ever could have done at restaurants. And of course, the gas, don't even get me started.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. It's an amazing deal.
She took it upon herself when I decided to go back the following summer and work with my brother on a project, a family project that needed to get done. She decided to take upon herself to put me on her Sam's Club membership. Just quite sure that my drive across country would be very similar to that experience for my son and I. And so she put me on the Sam's Club card. Well, in order to do that, you got to go down to Sam's Club and you've got to stand there where some, teenage girl will take your picture from the computer.
Right.
And so this was at a time when, the fear over COVID was absolutely raging. And so you couldn't even get into Sam's Club without a mask. I mean, they had somebody standing there going, "Excuse me, sir, excuse me, put your mask on, wear your mask properly." And so I go up and I've got to stand in line for this little girl to take my picture. And I show up in my, I wear glasses, prescription glasses, but I happen to have my prescription sunglasses on at that juncture. Mm-hmm. And I also had a ball cap that my daughter gave me that she got from Australia, right? So I'm wearing this hat. I'm wearing this like ball cap, dark blue ball cap. And these sunglasses, mirror shade sunglasses, just because they're prescription. And I've got a mask on, of course. I've got a surgical mask over my face. And the little girl taking the picture was just like, "So did you want to pull like your hat and glasses and mask off? I mean, you don't have to if you're not comfortable. You can keep your mask on." And I'm like, "No, I'm just going to keep my mask on because that way." And I told her, I was very upfront with her, if my son ever wants to use my card, he can come in here and show the picture you're about to take. I mean, the hat is down over my brim. The brim of the hat's down over my face. The dark glasses are on. And the surgical mask is on, right? And they're taking my picture in this thing.
So literally the invisible man can use your Sam's Club card.
Look, it could have been me in that Sam's Club card. It could have been my son. It could have been the Unabomber, right?
Anybody can use your Sam's Club.
Anybody. Any, male. I mean, I look sort of mannish, I'd like to think. But yeah, I show up and I'm wearing this mask and this hat and this dark glasses. I mean, I could not have been more obscure if I was a movie star hiding from the paparazzi, right? It's like, I'm a movie star trying to get out for a cappuccino. And like, I've got all of this gear on my face. And I told her flat out, she was unhappy. But she said, well, you know, the rules are the rules. You wear the mask if you're comfortable. We'll take your picture however you want to. Oh. And to this day, you look at that. It's so gorgeous.
I want to see it after this.
Who is that?
I need to see it.
Like, who? That could be anybody. That literally could be anybody. Oh. Anyway.
The truth is we could literally be anybody behind our masks. We've got to take off the proverbial mask and be who we want to be. You get to write your own story. Every day you get up, you get to write a new story. You get to play the part that you were born to play, the part that you want to play. And you are the one standing in your own way. You're the one putting that mask on. You're the one not showing the world who you really are. And I promise you that when you show people who you are, they will love you more, because of the authentic energy that you will radiate.
Well, it also gives them permission to be who they really are.
Oh, that's a great point.
I don't have to impress you. I don't have to show you my highlight reel on my Instagram or Facebook feed or whatever. Mm-hmm. I realize that you are your authentic self, and I can trust you enough to let my guard down or take my mask off.
Right.
And just be exactly who I am. And now all of a sudden, I'd love you because I'm allowed to just be myself and be comfortable with who I am.
That's a beautiful thing. It really is. It's a beautiful thing. There's nothing better than formulating relationships with people where you just get to be who you are and they are who they are, and you get to show up to the party.
That's right. That's right. All right. Excellent.
I like it.
Yeah, me too.
Well, at the end of the day, there was a quote that I wanted to share. And I think it was Oscar Wilde who said, be yourself because everyone else is taken.
There you go.
And I love that quote. So be yourself. Everyone else is taken.
Very good.
All right. Well, I think we should close this up with a little bit of, I don't know, dream your life.
And live your dreams.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.